Hello, hello, testing, testing. Just making sure our volume is working. If you're out there watching,
Sorry. You're good.
William is back there testing to make sure our volume is working. So if you heard an echo, I do apologize about that. If you were out there, please drop me a chat and say hi. We will be starting momentarily once I make sure everything is good to go and all checks out. Welcome to World Bipolar Disorder Day. We are happy to have you here. Hey, Chugs, thanks. We appreciate that. All right, guys, let's see what happens. All right. Can you guys all see me? All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to World Bipolar Disorder Day. Thanks again for being here. Good to see you guys. The lighting in here is terrible. I didn't turn my light on. William, where's the light? Sorry, guys.
Back.
Can you just come fix the light, please? Okay. Sorry. We are having some technical difficulties, but that is a-okay. All right, so we are here today to talk about bipolar disorder, to talking about breaking the stigma that surrounds not only bipolar disorder but all forms of mental health. It's not on. There you go. That's better. Hey, now you guys can see me. Okay. So yeah, we are here to talk about bipolar disorder, debunk some myths, answer some questions, talk about ways to cope. I've got a lot of things lined up, so we are going to go ahead and get started. My goal is to help break the stigma that surrounds bipolar disorder and all forms of mental health. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right. All right, excuse me, guys. All right, so the first question, what was receiving your diagnosis like? I feel like this is a pretty common question, maybe not necessarily phrased that way, but I feel like people often want to know how you reacted to finding out that you had some sort of mental health disorder. Personally, for me, I guess my thoughts were, at least I finally have a name, something to call it. Personally, it was good to hear that there were other people out there that also experienced some of the same things that I did, and it made me feel a little less alone. It made me feel like I wasn't crazy. If you're out there and you struggle from some form of mental illness, you might, understand the feeling of thinking that you're crazy. And it's just good to know that there's a whole community of people out there who also struggle with these problems. And it makes you feel, or at least me, that I'm not in it alone. If you're out there and you want to share your thoughts as we go through these questions, definitely feel free to answer the questions in the chat and let me know what you think in regards to your personal experience. Give me just a moment.
Hey, honey.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. I see that I have a comment here from you, Teresa. It's not showing up on my computer because it is commented on my shared post. So if you can go directly to that mental health chats page and comment on that video, then I should be able to see it on my feed. But thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk about this and share our journey with you today. All right, so next question. All right. Well, I said next question. It doesn't appear to be working. Give me just a second. I am obviously trying to work out the kinks here. I'm so sorry, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. I will hopefully have this figured out momentarily. Thank you. Okay, guys, so this isn't working, so I guess we're just gonna wing it. Give me just a moment. I do apologize. Okay, guys, so first of all, I would like to say that now I'm extremely stressed out, so I'm a little panicky. But we're going to keep pushing through because that's what this whole thing is about. So, question number 2, which you can't see on your screen, and I apologize for that, is what does a manic episode feel like? Alright, so what does a manic episode look like, feel like, how do you recognize it, that kind of thing. So if you've never experienced a manic episode before, mania is the polar opposite of depression. So you are going to be feeling high, you're going to be riding a wave of energy, you're going to be taking risks, you're going to be a little bit reckless, maybe out of control. And I guess at first, when you first are climbing up that manic high, it feels pretty good. You have a lot of energy, you have a lot of drive, you have a lot of motivation. Motivation is the word I'm looking for. You have a lot of motivation to get things done. You might clean your whole entire apartment in 1 hour. But as that manic episode continues to progress, especially if you're going to be experiencing a full-blown manic episode and not just hypomania, that could turn into things like reckless gambling, reckless shopping. I have a horrible time controlling my spending. Like when I'm on a manic high, I just want to buy and buy and buy and buy and buy. So for me personally, that is what my manic episodes may look like. What do you guys experience when you have a manic episode? Let me know in the comments, okay? All right, so our next question kind of is a feeder question off of this. So why exactly is mania considered just as bad as depression? I mean, it doesn't sound that bad, right? Like, you have all this extra energy, you have motivation, you have drive, but you have to think about it from the perspective, I guess, of going over the edge, going to the extreme. You know, mania is more than just having that drive, having that motivation. You know, like I mentioned, as you continue down that path of mania, it spirals out of control. So you definitely want to make sure that you are getting your manic episodes treated as well, because when left untreated, they can be just as severe as depressive episodes. Give me just a minute, guys. Okay, guys. All right. So our next question: how does living with bipolar disorder affect your daily life? Again, bipolar disorder, when treated, you know, mostly, it doesn't cause a lot of problems. You can live a relatively normal life, but of course there are going to be some problems that may arise. Some things that I personally deal with is when I guess I overreact or overthink. I think way too much about one little act. I see something happen and then I immediately I blow it out of proportion. I take things to the extreme, and it affects me daily. That everything I do, every action that I take, I'm completely second guessing myself. I mean, just for example, this stream, like now I feel like everyone out there who's watching is going to think I'm a complete fool because I can't figure out how to work it. And I know that's not true. I mean, I haven't done this, before, and I don't really know how everything works. So it's kind of like a trial run while also being the real deal. So I know it happens, and it's not like I'm the first person in the world to ever make a mistake. But that is kind of how it affects my daily life. I also sometimes I have like anger outbursts. Those are other side effects that you can see with bipolar disorder. And I will get extremely angry way out of proportion in regards to the current situation. Another situation that you may see would be something like today, for example, when I was on my lunch break, I was just super moody, super low, didn't even want to eat the food that we had gotten for lunch, and I just felt so low. And then like an hour or 2 hours later, I was like bebopping along, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so happy. I'm happy to be alive, great to be here, that kind of thing. And so like it's just like sometimes like it just it never stops. How does your disorder affect your relationships? I'm sure William back there has lots of thoughts on that. If you want to share, William, you can definitely come up here and speak, but of course you don't have to. But how does your disorder affect your relationships? I mean, this kind of feeds off of the last question, like it does affect me daily in my relationships as well. Sometimes I think, you know, do the people that I'm in relationships with, friendships, family, even want to be in those friendships or relationships with me? Do the people that I interact with, what do they think about me? Do they really mean what they say? You know, just kind of a little bit on the paranoid side, I guess. I often think that maybe the things that I have to say don't mean as much in relationships. And I know, like, William would be the first to tell you that I'm always asking for constant reassurance. And these are just some of the things that I experience, you know, personally with living with bipolar disorder. Again, the anger that I discussed, you know, sometimes we have trouble with that. Sometimes we have trouble with that because I get so agitated that I just take it out on whoever's closest, I guess. And sometimes, you know, me and William live together, so he happens to be in the warpath a lot. And we just work through it. You know, you have to be open and honest in any relationship, but when you're living with a mental disorder, I guess it doesn't make things any easier. Alright, let's see what else we got here. I hate that you guys can't see these questions on the screen. I have all these cute little graphics that I made, and I'm kind of bummed right now, to be honest. I put a lot of work into this, but that's okay. I'm hopefully going to put all of these graphics and type everything up into like a blog post and release that soon, so I will definitely link you guys that. Next question. How has bipolar disorder affected your work history? This one's a big one for me personally. I struggled significantly with my mental health, you know, back last year and at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, and until recently I've only gotten to the point where I'm doing okay. Oh, hey Rachel, thanks. Thanks for stopping by. Glad to see you here. I will definitely get that link out to you with all these graphics soon. Hope to work on that tonight. But anyways, yeah. So, with the work history, if you've watched some of my previous videos, you will know that I did go to a mental facility back in 2018. And I stayed there for about a week, so of course I was off work, and then I returned to work. Then in March, I went on a health leave from work, medical leave. Then I was back in June. Then I don't know, probably one of my weird bipolar things, quit because I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle all the stress, and instead of just trying to work through it, I refused to face it, and so I literally typed up a resignation letter, printed it off, and handed it to my boss, and I was like, look, here we go. Like, literally no prior thought to it. So, looking back, that was definitely the bipolar disorder at work, for sure. But anyways, so then, I am now back at work at the same place. I've been very blessed with good coworkers and good management. But I guess, how has it affected my work history? I mean, you can see that it's been kind of hard, pretty sporadic there. But I think that the key thing is that if you are comfortable speaking with your human resources department, seeing what they can offer you, seeing what accommodations that they can offer you. Maybe, you know, they'll speak with you and you speak with your doctor and see how they can best accommodate your work experience and make things work as well as possible for you. And I believe that the open, honest communication that I had with my supervisor and several of my close friends at work, the HR department, everything like that, allowed me to kind of be in the good place that I am. in my current work history. So definitely give me your guys' stories if you'd like to share. We're going to move on to the next question, though. All right, next question. Do you worry about genetics and having children? This is a big one for me, to be honest. Me and William have had this conversation a lot. I am honestly very scared to have children. For multiple reasons, I guess. I don't want to feel like I'm responsible for bringing a child into this world and then them having the same disorder. I don't want to be responsible for causing someone the struggles and the pain that I've felt. But again, like, it's genetic. You don't know what's gonna happen. It's not like every person that in my family has bipolar disorder. Of course not. It doesn't work that way. But, there's always that risk, that possibility. And I don't know. It's just been a big point of contention for me. I've thought about it a lot. Another thing that I've thought about a lot is, hi Teresa. Yeah, I definitely can understand where you're coming from, because that's how I feel on the regular. I mean, I do worry about having children one day, and so we've definitely talked about, the options of fostering children or adopting children, so we still feel like we have a family, and we're able to provide for children out there who need the help. But of course, that's not something that we're thinking about currently. It's just conversations that we've had, all good things that you need to talk about to someone that you plan on spending the rest of your life with. And so that's kind of where I'm at on that. I know I have had several friends out there who have some form of mental health disorders who have given birth to the children while they were on, while they were taking medications. And I guess that was another thing that I was worried about too. Like, I've even asked some of my friends, how they dealt with it, because a lot of medications that are used for mental health disorders are harmful to the child. If you're pregnant, those can be harmful to the child. Hold on just a second. Sorry guys, I'm trying to fix the brightness on the screen because I realized that I'm like extremely washed out and y'all can't see me at all. Yeah, Rachel, yeah, so that is kind of, I know that I've talked to some other of our friends that we went to high school with about that, and I've just been like really nervous about that. Like, a lot of medications you can't take while you're pregnant, and I've just kind of been scared about how that would work. So I know that doesn't really have anything to do with the genetics aspect of having kids, but oh, there's my dog Uno. Say hi, everybody. But yeah, so that's the other thoughts I have on that. Would you stop? Okay, so question number 8. What are common judgments that you face? This is definitely a question that I'd be interested in getting everyone out there's input. Let me know what you have heard judgment-wise from other people. But I guess, I don't know, a lot of judgments that people think when you tell them that you have a mental health disorder of any form, people automatically assume you're crazy. And that's not entirely true, you guys. Like, if you know me at all, I lead a relatively normal life. I mean, I'm a weirdo, but I'm not like crazy. I At least I don't think I am. But a lot of people out there, that is their initial judgment, their initial turnoff to anyone who has a mental health disorder. People kind of automatically assume that you have something wrong with you, that you're less of a person. Sometimes people even think that you can't be successful in your chosen career field, especially if it's like high stress. There are just a whole lot of scenarios there. There's a lot of judgment that goes around with mental health, and I guess that's kind of a lot of why I'm doing this. I really want to impress upon, everyone out there that there's nothing wrong with having a mental health disorder at all. 100% okay. How many people out there, if you look at statistics, actually suffer from some form of mental health disorder? It is way more than you think. So I definitely just kind of want to bust up that stigma. So yeah. Let's see here. Question number 9. Is there a cure? If not, what is the treatment for your disorder? Unfortunately, bipolar disorder is what it is, and it's not going to go away. There's nothing that you can do to cure yourself. But the really good news is there are a lot of options out there to help manage your bipolar disorder. And yeah, there are a lot of ways that you can manage that through medications, through talk therapy, through coping mechanisms, self-care mechanisms, and we're going to get into all of that stuff later. Let's see, I have another comment here from Teresa. Yes, they assume you are crazy. They also think you can control your feelings. They think you're lazy too. Yes, this is very true. The amount of times someone has looked at me and told me, like, just calm down, I'm like, it doesn't work like that. Believe me, sometimes when I get irritated at people saying these things to me, I oftentimes spout back, do you really think I want to feel like this? And I know that's not the best way to handle the situation. That's not educational. I'm not educating the people. But it's how I feel. Like, I don't want to feel like this, And to touch on the thinking that I'm lazy, I also agree with that. Sometimes you just don't have the will, the drive to do what you need to do. And I guess it's really hard because while people are looking from the outside in thinking that you're lazy, you're internalizing, at least for me, I internally am like, you guys, I want to be productive. I look around and I think, okay, here's my list of things to do. Here's the list of things I feel like doing. And I just feel like I don't have the energy or the drive or the willpower to do any of those things. And so not only am I depressed, but now I'm also adding to that of thinking, oh, I also need to do all of this too. And it's really hard. It is really hard. Okay, so we are going to talk about debunking some myths about bipolar disorder, separating fact from fiction. And I'm going to see if this will work. Probably not, because I still don't know what I'm doing, but that's okay. If you guys have more questions that you would like me to talk about, definitely drop them in the comments. I'm definitely happy to talk about whatever anyone wants to talk about out there. So debunking myths on bipolar disorder. Okay, this isn't going to work either, I guess. Maybe I can do, I wonder. I'm trying something, guys. Hold on. Be patient with me. Okay. Hey, look. Okay, I got it to transition. I don't know if it's going to transition for a long time. But, anyways. Oh, my chat is still there and it's upside down, so that's kind of dumb. Okay. So, here we have, okay, I'm just going to turn this off. I'm sorry. Alright, so let's talk about debunking, mental health. And specifically bipolar disorder. Okay. I'm going to pull this up here on my computer. Again, I will definitely put these graphics out. How does it affect your sleep? Great question. Also, thanks for joining us. Glad you're here. Well, my sleep schedule is awful. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. I do not go to sleep at a normal time. I cannot stay asleep. I have a really hard time falling asleep at night. So, and this is, I found, pretty common among a lot of people who have bipolar disorder. A lot of people will scroll on their phones or watch TV or do Google searches or whatever. Your mind is running a mile a minute, and so you just can't stop. Personally for me, and then once I get to sleep, I have a hard time staying asleep, and then when I wake back up, I have a hard time falling back asleep again, and it's just a vicious cycle. That's my personal experience. Drop that in the comments. Another thing I didn't think about, the sleep schedule also has like a complete opposite end too. Like sometimes I feel like I could sleep for like 10,000 years and still be tired. So like sometimes I will sleep an entire day away and just, yeah. Great question, though. Thank you so much. Yeah, so back to debunking some myths here. One of the most common myths I think about not only bipolar disorder, but mental health in general is that people believe that not many people are affected. But honestly, not many people are open about it. Not many people speak up about it. So that's why it's not seen to be as common as other disorders. There's still so much stigma surrounding mental health that people don't realize that typically, I believe the statistic is like 1 in 5 people in the United States have some form of a mental health disorder. From doing some research, it looks like more than 5 million adults in the United States are currently diagnosed with some form of bipolar disorder. So it's not everyone, but it's definitely not just a handful of people. It's significantly more common than people think, simply because people are scared to talk about it. To go off of that, a lot of people think that there's only one form of bipolar disorder. There are actually 4 types of bipolar disorder. I have bipolar 1. There's bipolar 1, bipolar 2, and then I don't remember the names of the other 2. The differences between the bipolar 1 and 2, it depends on your, I don't want to say cycle, I guess, but it depends on how you experience your manic episodes. It depends on how you experience your depressive episodes. For me, my usual typical symptoms, I guess, of struggling with bipolar disorder 1, I get a lot of extended periods of depression and short spurts of mania. So a lot of people who have bipolar 1 only experience hypomania, so not a full-blown manic episode, just kind of a median between like full-blown mania and like your normal happy or euphoric feelings. So that is personally my experience with bipolar 1, but it kind of is different for everyone. Okay, let's see. So a lot of times people think that you can simply cure bipolar disorder through diet, exercise, changing your thoughts, changing the way you approach things, and that's definitely not true. That's not to say that diet and exercise don't help, because they definitely do. Don't get me wrong about that. But there is simply no cure for bipolar disorder. As we discussed earlier, it can definitely be managed, but it's not something that's just going to go away. All right, let's see. Again, another common thing that people think about bipolar disorder is that mania is productive. You're in a great mood, so what's the problem? But as we talked about earlier, left untreated, mania can have dangerous and scary side effects. Some people can have manic episodes that last several days. Again, I experienced the hypomania, so I've never experienced something like that. But mania can lead to delusions. Mania can lead to being completely out of touch with reality. Mania can lead to not knowing where you are in the world, not knowing what's real, what's not real, hearing voices. Mania, while it may sound good until you experience it, I promise you it's not. It's definitely not something that you want to experience. Another thing that I find pretty common is that people think that if you are treated for bipolar disorder, that you will lose your spark or your personality. And here's the thing. That's simply not true. I mean, you're not your diagnosis. It is simply a part of you. You exist outside of being bipolar, Like, you are still the same person that you would be if your bipolar disorder wasn't there. Plain and simple. Your bipolar disorder is not who you are. 100%. I totally agree and believe that. I am not bipolar. I have bipolar disorder. Doesn't sound like a big distinction, but it is. It is in the way you think. It is in your mindsets, that kind of thing. Let's see. Mary asks, is there any typical age of onset? I don't really know. I haven't done a lot of research looking into onset ages for bipolar disorder. I know that back when I was younger, I was initially diagnosed with ADHD, and then when they gave me my diagnosis of bipolar disorder a few years ago, I was told that sometimes bipolar disorder can present as ADHD in young children. I was also told that they don't like to diagnose young children with bipolar disorder. But again, that was a few years ago, so I don't really know what the climate is on that right now. I would have to do some research, which I certainly can do and get back to you and let you know. But I don't have that answer. I apologize. Next common myth, I think, that goes along for any mental health disorder. All medication is the same. That is also 100% not true. I've tried so many different medications. I can't even tell you how many. I've tried medications that have been on the market for a while. I've tried medications that have just been released. And, it all just kind of works differently. And the thing about medication is that how a medication affects me could affect you totally different. It totally has to do with your bodily chemistry. It has to do with your chemical compound. It has to do with the way your body interacts with those drugs. So you cannot predict what is going to happen when you take a new medication. That's why when you're taking medication, you need to be under supervision from your provider, from your mental health provider, and you never need to stop taking medication altogether. For sure, definitely make sure all medication use is under a doctor's supervision. Let's see, we have some chatting going on. Lori says, that's my mom. Hi, Mom. We were told in training that was around 24. That was an average, but I didn't agree. So we're talking about onset of bipolar disorder. Again, I'm going to do some research and see what I can find there. Teresa says, not true, too numerous to count. I think she's referring to medications. Yeah, so there's so many medications out there. Next typical thing that people also think about with bipolar disorder is people think that you're always depressed or you're always manic, and that's just not true. There is most definitely middle ground there, and that there's kind of two ends of the spectrum. You can definitely experience a balanced mood. Most of the time I'm pretty regulated, pretty steady. I can feel like pretty constant, pretty consistent, not too high, not too low. But then there are also periods in which people can experience mixed episodes. So you can experience that depression or that mania, or, it may present as anger or irritability. You can, it's not one or the other. It's not in the middle. And it can be both. So definitely would love to hear your experiences on that. I have not experienced mixed episodes frequently, but I definitely have before, and it is a very weird situation, because we are talking about like feeling happy and sad and angry and all at the same time, and it's wild. Definitely, yeah. All right, so those are all my like common mental health myths that I wanted to talk about. Let's see what's next on the agenda. All right. Let's see. Next, we are going to talk about coping with bipolar disorder. And again, I'm sure that my slides aren't going to work like I had planned, so we're just going to wing it yet again. I do apologize. Okay. So, some things that you want to think about when coping with bipolar disorder is, again, there's no cure. And medications will help, but medications sometimes can only do so much, right? So we have to actively work at being better. We have to actively work at, trying everything we can to make sure that we are able to cope. So before I get started, I see some more chats. Teresa says, I'm never both, usually up or down. Yeah, that's me. For the most part, I'm usually up or down. Mary asks, do the different seasons affect bipolar, like seasonal affective disorder? I don't know about everyone else's experience, but personally for me, I am definitely a little gloomier in the winter when it's colder, when there's not as much sun, or when it's really rainy. Like a few weeks ago, we had all that rain and I was not happy most of the time. It does me a lot of good to get out in the sunshine, get that vitamin D. So I'm not sure about the science behind that, but again, I can definitely check into that. So, ways to cope with bipolar disorder. We are definitely going to want to, first things first, manage your stress. And I'm not saying cut all stressors out of your life, because that's impossible. But I want you to think about what stress is necessary or good, or what stress that you can handle to have in your life, If there's unnecessary stress, then get rid of it. Cut it out. It is not necessary. Don't deal with it. The next thing here I have is keep a routine. Routine. And right now, I'm not going to lie, this one is really hard. Because we're currently in this quarantine period. In this quarantine period, or self-isolation period, or social distancing, or whatever you want to call it, it's so hard to create a schedule and stick to it. Luckily, I'm still working from home, or I'm able to work from home, so I'm able to stay on a consistent work schedule. But the problem is, like, when I get off work or I clock out, sometimes I just want to go to bed, and like, the thing is, I need to make myself stay in that routine, make sure I'm getting proper sleep, everything like that. That proves to really help people who have bipolar disorder. So definitely think that is something worth looking into. Another thing we would want to focus on, again, is those healthy sleep patterns. Mary asked earlier, how does it affect your sleep? And focusing on healthy sleep patterns is definitely something that's really tricky for a lot of people with bipolar disorder. I found that I need to put away my phone, I need to turn off the TV, and I typically play like soothing rain sounds or some sort of white noise to help kind of block that out. So that has definitely been very helpful for me. It is so hard to stay in a routine, and especially when you don't have anything consistent. I completely understand. I was off work for several months when I quit back in September, and I didn't have a routine, to be completely honest. I just was kind of vegetating and existing, so it definitely affected me, for sure. Let's see. Another one, shout out to my dad if you're watching, is exercise. My dad reminds me of this all the time. He's like, make sure you're getting out there, make sure you walk. My dad is a huge runner, if you know him, and he's all the time sending me articles about how running and walking and exercising in general can assist, by releasing those endorphins into your brain and helping you get to a point where your mood is elevated. My personal favorite is soaking up the sun. I love to sit outside, get that vitamin D intake, and just soak up the nice warm weather, even if it's cold outside and it's not warm. Like, sunshine is a big game changer. When I moved my desk here to work remotely from home, you guys can see it's right there in the back where William's waving, and I put it right by the door. So during the day while I'm working, I can soak in the sun. I can have the outdoor space. My desk at work is right by the window as well. So it does really help me to be able to see the sunshine.
She also works like this with Uno in her life.
So another thing that I want to point out as, a coping mechanism or something to think about is to avoid caffeine, alcohol, and drugs. All of those things can have really negative interactions with your medications. I do really bad at this. I love Coca-Cola. I occasionally have a margarita, but I'm better about the alcohol thing than I am about the caffeine thing. The caffeine thing kills me, and I know it's something I need to work on. Another really good thing that is helpful, especially if you are in the first stages of being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I would definitely recommend that you journal or track your mood. So if you can kind of keep up with what triggers you, if you can keep up with your swings, the swings in your mood, and you can report all of that back, if we can report all of that back to your doctor, then they can definitely assist you with adjusting your medication. Let's see. Yeah, although not bipolar, we have found the stress of the virus has really affected our sleep majorly. The news is something we want to keep up with, but it is still stressful. Yes, definitely. Definitely. I don't know about you guys, but the virus has changed everything. From working from home and everything like that. So my whole routine is different. Plus, there's news everywhere, and most of it is not good. So that definitely does add to stress, and I think that is also affecting my sleep for sure. And then the next or the last thing I think about that's really important with coping is to practice self-care. So we're going to talk a little bit about self-care now. Let me know what you guys do for self-care. What is your favorite form of self-care? And while you are letting me know that, I'm going to talk about some ways that we can all practice self-care. Let's see here. Okay, guys, sorry about that. Ooh, pedicures. Yes, I love a good pedicure. That is a great self-care. So I made this really cool graphic, which you can't see because it's supposed to be after the self-care check-in list. And it says, taking medication for your mental health does not make you weak. It does not define you. What are some other ways to practice self-care in conjunction with your medication? And then on my graphic, my favorite things as far as self-care goes is rereading your favorite book. I greatly enjoy reading Harry Potter, so that's a good one for me. Watching a movie or TV show that makes you smile. Harry Potter 3, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Shout out to the squad if you're out there. That is one of our self-care rules. When you are sad, watch Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban because it will immediately make you feel better. So those are, what me and my friends from school did. Another one that I really enjoy is watching the clouds go by or the stars in the sky. Just kind of realizing that there's this whole big universe out there and you get to exist in it too. That's pretty cool. A personal favorite of mine when I was off of work was taking bubble baths. I took so many bubble baths and it was excellent. Let's see, in the comments we have puzzles from William. We actually have a new puzzle we're getting ready to start on. My mom says she gets a massage. I know all about that. Mom loves her massages. Mary says prayer, meditation, B vitamins, walking outside, brain games, all very good ones. And yeah, definitely walking outside. I mean, last week my mental health was kind of shot pretty badly, to be honest. And we actually were able to go on that walk. And I just felt significantly better. So yeah, this graphic that you see on your screen here, though, is going to show you some self-care tips, or self-care options. Making sure that you're eating your meals. Maybe you need to take a social media break. Cuddle with your pet. Shout out to Uno, wherever he is.
I'm gonna go back to bed.
Uno's trying to sleep back there. My dad says running. I'm not surprised, Mom. I'm not surprised at all. Yeah, so there are a whole list of things here that are really good. I also have some other graphics here. Yes, chasing runaway dogs, not so much good for the self-care when you think your dog is gone. But yeah, so I have some other graphics here about self-care that I will definitely be adding into that blog post that I'm going to work on. Okay, that was a really bad joke, William. I'm not even going to repeat that. Yeah, so self-care is great. Definitely love all the ideas that you guys have out there for sure. Alright, this screen right here is, I think, really important. So, there are going to be times when the medication, when the coping, when the self-care just isn't cutting it, right? What if it's an emergency and you need to seek help? What if you need to go call 911? What if you need to go to the ER? What if you need to be checked into a mental health facility? What if the people that are with you don't know who they should contact? Those kinds of things. I feel like this is something that I'd wish I'd thought about in the past. So in case of an emergency, I think it's a really good idea for us to all create an emergency plan. This is definitely something I'm actually going to work on. I just found this today and I thought it was something really crazy that I'd never even thought about. So in case of an emergency, kind of work out an emergency plan. You need to have contact information for your doctors, for your therapists, for your close family or friends. Who do you want to be contacted in case of an emergency? Have information on what hospital you want to go to, or have information on your insurance. Some people's insurances aren't accepted everywhere, so you want to make sure that, if at all possible, you can have that information available. I think it's good to write down a list of your triggers or your warning signs to let the people in your life around you know that, hey, maybe these things will affect you. And maybe these things are warnings that we need to get you help. It looks like I just got a message here. Oh, Billy said playing or listening to music can help get started. Yeah, definitely, for sure. Let's see. And then definitely you want to have a list of how to keep you safe. I know that's not something that is a pleasant topic. It's not something that anyone wants to talk about. But coming from my personal history is of someone who has experienced self-harm, who has practiced self-harm, who has had suicidal ideations. It's very important that the people around you know what your tendencies are, what you could potentially do, so they can keep you safe, you know? I know that's kind of heavy, but this whole thing, I guess, is a little heavy. And then finally, you want to make sure that you have information listed about yourself to give to emergency personnel. So you want to have a list of your medications. You want to have a list of any other conditions that you may be diagnosed with. Anything like that. Biggest thing as a loved one and supporter is to never leave them side. Get them to safety as fast as you can. Yeah, shout out to William. He's great. He's been there through all this crap, and he is definitely someone who can answer questions about what to do if you don't know how to get someone there safely. He's lived through that, and I thank him so much for that. So definitely something that I think is important to mention for sure. Let me check this real quick. Let's see. Okay. All right. Next thing I want to talk about. How many of you people out there have a mental health champion? A champion may be someone that is an advocate for your specific disorder, for mental health in general. You know, this person could be someone in your local community, a celebrity, anything like that. My personal mental health champion is Carrie Fisher, Space Mom. I love her so much. And Carrie Fisher was really, honestly, the first person I knew, besides myself, that had bipolar disorder, and I just thought it was so cool. I mean, not that she had bipolar disorder, but that she was so open about it, so willing to discuss it. I mean, she's like Princess freaking Leia, you know? Like, I don't know. I mean, my dad raised me on Star Wars, so I adored her anyways. And then I didn't really know a whole lot about people who experience bipolar disorder, but I was in a training back in college for when I was set to become an RA in our dorms, and there was a training on mental health disorders, and she was in it. I was like, whoa, what is this? And that's kind of where I first figured out about it. That's when I first learned that she was this big champion and big advocate for bipolar disorder. And she has a lot of quotes here that I want to share with you guys about some experiences that she had with her mental health. And again, I have graphics, but you can't see them because I don't know how to work this thing. But that's fine. I'm winging it. And then we'll share the graphics later. All right. So, one of the top quotes from Carrie Fisher about mental health. I am mentally ill. I can say that. I am not ashamed of that. I survived that. I'm still surviving that. But bring it on. Better me than you. And you know, that really hits hard. That last sentence. Better me than you. And I, you know, kind of want to say that I agree with that. I'm glad that I have the disorder and I mean, I'm not glad that I have bipolar disorder at all. But I mean, at least it's me. And I'm someone who can handle it. I'm someone who can speak up about it. I'm someone who can, I guess, push forward. I guess I'm glad that it's me and not someone who can't handle it. Mom says, I can see your graphics. Yeah, Mom. So I have like multiple graphics that are supposed to be like I'm supposed to be able to slide through them, and I can't figure out how to make that work. So I don't know. Let's see. Here's another quote. One of the things that baffles me, and there are quite a few, is how there can be so much lingering stigma, people, with regards to mental illness, specifically bipolar disorder. In my opinion, living with manic depression takes a tremendous amount of balls. She goes on to say, at times being bipolar can be an all-consuming challenge, requiring a lot of stamina and even more courage. So if you're living with this illness and functioning at all, it's something to be proud of and not ashamed of. They should issue medals along with a steady stream of medication. And what more is there to add to that? I mean, Carrie Fisher rocks. That's all. Another really good quote that motivates me a lot. Sometimes you think that with bipolar disorder that you shouldn't try to go out and achieve. You have a lot of fears. You have a lot of doubts. A lot of things that you may not want to risk. I'm scared all the time. I'm anxious all the time scared to do anything, you know? So Carrie Fisher said, once upon a time, stay afraid, but do it anyways. What's important is the action. You don't have to wait to be confident. Just do it, and eventually the confidence will follow. Let's see. I have a couple of more here. We have been given a challenging illness, and there's no other option than to meet those challenges. Think of it as an opportunity to be heroic, but as an emotional survival. An opportunity to be a good example to others who might share a disorder. I mean, I'm terrified to be having this conversation where literally anyone in the world could drop in and watch me and interact with me or judge me or make comments that I could see. You know, it's not like a fun thing, I guess. But it's so important to be able to open up and try to bust that stigma and share to all the people out there listening that there's hope and there's help, you know? And then, of course, my personal favorite that has nothing to do with mental health is when Carrie Fisher was told that Princess Leia was not allowed to wear underwear under her little white classic gown because George Lucas told her that there was no underwear in space. So she once upon a time said, I want it reported that I drowned in moonlight, strangled by my own bra. And if you followed some of the obituaries that were released following her death a few years ago, a lot of articles and a lot of sources quoted her on this, and it just made me smile. So that's why I wanted to throw that in there. So yeah, if you have someone out there that is your mental health champion, no matter if they're famous, if they're, famous in your heart, if they're famous in your small town, your big city, wherever you are, let me know who it is out there that you admire, that inspires you. I have a little video here. I don't know if I can make it work because I'm kind of dumb and I don't really know how this works. And it's Carrie Fisher. Shocking, I know. And we're going to see if it works.
When you signed into the mental hospital, you wrote down the name, instead of Carrie Fisher, you wrote down...
I wrote with my left hand, and I wrote the word shame. But I was really, it was something that you would be ashamed of, to lose control to that extent. I didn't know, in a way, who I was. I'd stayed awake.
How long ago was this?
It's about 15 years ago. So I stayed awake for 6 days, and you can't, that's how they torture.
possible?
it isn't possible. I was allergic to a medication, so what they did was to find out what medication it was, they took me off everything. And I said to them, I won't sleep. And they said, no one ever, died from losing one night's sleep.
Right.
So 6 nights later, I was still awake. I thought everything on TV was about me, which makes hard programming.
This is after your 6 days of being awake.
6 days of being awake. And I also was getting secret messages from the movie The Young Lions.
Wow.
There were secret messages from the writers.
Yeah.
There was messages.
You were gone.
I was so gone.
Wasn't that when Todd was with you too?
Todd was there, and my shrink came at one point, and I told her I didn't know if I believed in reincarnation, but if there was such a thing, I was hoping to come back as her shrink.
Wow.
But I told her that I had light coming out of my head, which I did. There was a point where it just disconnected, and it was fantastic.
Really?
It was.
So you had a break with reality.
Totally.
Totally.
I was, I didn't know what was happening.
So how did they bring you back?
Am I back?
How did they bring you back?
They fixed the medication and gradually,
Okay, guys, so that was a short clip of Carrie Fisher talking about the time that she checked in to a mental health facility. I've seen this clip several times before, but when I watched it today, it kind of gave me chills, brought some tears to my eyes, because it's not something that we should be ashamed of. But so often we are told that it is shameful to need help, and I guess I want you to hear the fact that it is not shameful. It is brave. It is the best thing that you can do for yourself moving forward, to definitely reach out and get help. So this next thing we're going to talk about is how you can support someone living with bipolar disorder diagnosis. And again, my graphics slideshow thing isn't working, so we're just going to wing it. Number 1, educate yourself. This is crucial. Because bipolar disorder is a mental health disorder that's often not talked about, much like every other mental health disorder, it is so important that you educate yourself on what your family member, your partner, your friend, whoever may be experiencing, because you want to make sure that you are approaching the situation correctly. Educating yourself is just so important. Lending a listening ear, being able to talk to someone without judgment is very refreshing and very rewarding. It is something that we can all use. Help fight to end the stigma. So, just like I'm doing today, talking about bipolar disorder, you guys can do that too, even if you don't have it. I have some graphics I can send out that talk about supporting being bipolar brave, supporting people with bipolar disorder, and that just opens up a conversation for people that you're friends with, So I'll definitely send that out to you guys. If it's applicable, be active in their treatment. Drive them to their doctor's appointments if you can. It's really scary going to a doctor's appointment alone. Obviously you don't have to, attend the actual appointment, but sit in the waiting room, be there with them, hold their hand until it's time for their name to be called and them to step back into the doctor's office. Very important. Number 5, make an emergency plan. We discussed that emergency plan previously. If you missed that, let me know, and I will get you some more information on that. But make that emergency plan with the people that you're closest to, the people that you spend most of your time with. Be supportive, but don't be pushy. So that's a fine line. You have to be careful. You're not always going to get it right, and that's okay, as long as you're trying. Also, be patient. As I mentioned earlier, I need a lot of validation. And I may ask you 10,000 times if you're sure you love me. Are you sure you're not mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Am I annoying? Am I obnoxious? Blah, 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 whatever. And I may ask it a zillion times. You can ask William. I'm sure he's nodding his head in the background.
The hardest ones are, am I annoying? Because you can't say yes or no.
So that's his 2 cents on that. And I can definitely agree. So, you definitely just want to be patient.
I will say the do you still love me will never change.
So sweet. You've got to take care of yourself too, though. I mean, you can't pour from an empty cup. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but think of yourself as a glass of water, and if you pour and you pour and you pour, and then there's no water left, there's no water for you, and you can't help anyone else. You have to make sure you are okay. And don't try to be the hero, If it is too much, if there's not anything that you can do, get help. Get help for that person. If you are a supporter of someone with bipolar disorder, definitely drop me a comment and let me know how you support people in your life that suffer from bipolar disorder. We're almost finished chatting tonight. I want to thank you all for being here. The other thing, one more thing I want to talk to everyone about is things that maybe you shouldn't say to people with bipolar disorder. I also made graphics for this that you can't see, so that stinks, but that's okay. I'm pulling up the graphics on my screen. Try not to say that you're just overreacting. Because oftentimes we know we're overreacting. We are aware, and we just can't control that. As Teresa mentioned a long time ago in this chat, she said that people think that you can control your feelings, and that's most definitely not always the case. So it's certainly important to try not to say that you're overreacting. Another one that I get really irritated at, and I'm sorry if you were out there and you have said this to me before, I'm not calling you out. That is not what this is. Anything that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Okay, yes, this is true. Yes, I understand the sentiment. I get it. But bipolar disorder can lead to people killing themselves, and it's a really hard one for me. I don't think it's something that we should necessarily be saying in this situation. Again, if you have said that to me before, please, please, please do not feel like you are being called out. And that goes for any of these statements. Everybody has mood swings sometimes. Alright, if you are out there and you have seen me experiencing mood swings, you can definitely attest that everyone does certainly experience mood swings. But the mood swings that are being experienced by someone who has bipolar disorder are significantly different than daily mood swings. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that. Don't ever say you're acting like a maniac, you're acting like a fool, you're crazy, any of those words, because we already feel that way. We already are feeling like that. There's always all this stigma going on around us in regards to being crazy, and this just makes us feel really crappy. So don't. I wish I was manic so I could get things done. We've talked about this a couple of times tonight. And just mania isn't exactly what it appears to be. It's not what people have this impression of it that it is. So this goes back to educating yourself. Before you make comments about something, just educate yourself. Please don't say that I seem so normal. I can be smart. I can be successful. I can be relatively normal. I can lead a normal life and still have bipolar disorder. This goes back to my diagnosis does not define me. My diagnosis does not make me who I am. I exist outside of my bipolar disorder. I heard this really great thing one time, and I wish for the life of me I could remember who told me this. But to think about it this way. Think of your bipolar disorder, your depression, your anxiety, your OCD, your borderline personality disorder, your schizophrenia, whatever it is out there, as the rain cloud. You are the sky. Can the rain cloud exist without the sky? No. Without you, the point is, the cloud cannot exist without the sky. But the sky can definitely exist without that rain cloud. You are still a whole person. You are still who you are inside without your bipolar disorder. You can exist separately from that, It is not your identity. It does not define who you are. And so when people make comments like, you seem so normal, it's not cool. Don't say it must be your time of the month. I mean, when I was in college, before I was properly medicated, I guess, I had manic episodes roughly correlating with the full moon every month. And so just because it's cyclical does not mean that you need to call me out on it. Sometimes I'm just having a bad day. It may not be a manic, it may not be a depressive, it may just be a crappy day. And this one, I guess, is my biggest pet peeve. Do not use the term bipolar as a descriptor. This goes for anything, not just bipolar disorder. It goes for any identity, any illness, anything that you may present as in the weather is so bipolar, or I don't know. That's just an example, and it just, when you use the word bipolar as a descriptor, personally, I believe that it adds to the stigma. So when we're saying the weather is so bipolar, the weather is so crazy, blah, 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 when you're saying bipolar as the descriptive, definitive word, then yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. That's just how I personally feel about that. And I think that you can take that and relate it to other mental illnesses as well. Stop being so OCD, or that's gay, not a mental health disorder, but an identity, I mean, it can be any identity that you choose to use as a descriptor. It is harmful and it is stigmatizing, and I urge you not to do this. Yeah, so that is pretty much everything I had planned today. We were on here for quite some time. I do apologize. I didn't really know how long this was going to last. To be completely honest with you, I didn't do a practice. I didn't do a run through. I just kind of jumped in and went with it. So I want to thank you guys all for being here. First of all, I greatly appreciate you. Shout out to everyone who has helped me get to this point in my life. Huge thank you to William, who's back there behind the scenes, making sure the chat is being monitored, and making sure that everything was set up properly in the system for me today. I am going to be working on the blog post that I keep mentioning, including those graphics. And maybe, you guys can take those graphics and use them too. If you have any more questions, I would really love to answer those questions, either here on stream, in our personal, on in a chat, a private message. The really great thing is this stream will stay up on Facebook Live. I did intend to record this, and I don't think I hit the record button. So I am going to be figuring out how to get this saved and hopefully get it put up on YouTube. So if you dropped in today, thank you so much. It means the world to me. And hopefully we can help end the stigma together. thank you for being here. All right, you guys.